We are live from Illinois, Titan Upload Network right around the corner. It's going to be a great one, folks. We're going to talk Clowney. We're going to talk NFL Draft with Brian from NFL Draft Geek and plenty of Tennessee Titans talk. Oh boy, can't wait. Let's get into it next. Welcome to Titan Upload Live here on the Titan Upload Network. And I tell you what, I have a really good idea of what you guys want to talk about here on the network. But we got Brian. We'll bring him on in a minute. But I'm sure you want to start off with the latest news on Clowney, and it's a crap show. And this is the one thing that I tried to tell you guys. If you follow me on Twitter, Facebook, you put all your eggs in one basket, and sometimes it just doesn't work out the way you want it to work out. So you guys can definitely comment what you've heard and stuff like that. But I'll tell you right now, according to a lot of people close to Buck Rising, supposedly he was on just a few minutes ago and said the Titans are still in on Clowney, which is good. But I also read that he said they're maybe not trending the way you want. Now, there has been some news that's broken lately to give us a little bit more of an indication if this thing's for real, if it's for show, what is the real deal here? So, for the Tennessee Titans. So, right now it looks like the cap's between 26, 27 million. Just had Brian on in the little green room before the show. He broke down numerous picks. He said the Bears last year only had 3 million. Of course, they hardly had any picks. Most of our picks are in the 7th round. We have 3 of them. We have 7 total. So roughly we're gauging, 5-6 million, maybe 7 to be safe if J-Rob maybe makes a trade or something like that. So what does that tell you? Well, if you subtract the number, it looks like you're going to have roughly 20 million in cap space, 21 million in cap space. We have a whole lot of people to sign, and there already has been reports out there that Seattle has offered 18.5 million. Now, we know that money doesn't buy everything, and Clowney may be Vrabel the connection. That's what we got to watch here. If Clowney really loves to work with Vrabel, thinks that Vrabel can maybe a 1-year, 2-year deal, could bring him in. Basically, I thought Clowney played pretty well. Seattle was pretty happy with his performance when they brought him in last year. I know that injuries have been an issue possibly, or maybe a lack of desire, or where he fits exactly. He's not typically your standout pass rusher, but he's versatile. He can play at many different spots. He can do a lot of different things. So when you look at it from that point of view, who knows what's going to happen with this. But the latest report, Buck Rising supposedly is broke, that the Titans are still in, but they still maybe aren't as close. Now, where I was getting fired up, a couple things happened obviously yesterday. We'll get to the Madden video here really quick, and then we'll bring Brian in. But we traded Casey, right? And I was not a big believer in trading Casey. I didn't think that was a good idea at all. I don't know how a guy who lives in Miami, has connections to the Seahawks, at first tells you that he has heard from the Clowney family. Then he changes it at the end and says now he's heard from a Titans, someone that works for the Titans. J-Rob doesn't do this stuff. It doesn't get out when he comes to the Titans. It only comes out if you want it to come out when we're talking for the Titans. Like, for example, the Brady stuff. Titans wanted that out there. They were trying to use it against Tannehill. If you go back and look, my reports were Brady was zoning on the Bucs middle February. Wasn't zoning at the Titans at all. That was all a show. It was all a show. So maybe they kicked it around a little bit like the reports were said, but there was nothing really there. We were all hopeful, those of you that wanted Brady. I mean, the list goes on and on. We lost Conklin. We're going to keep Kelly. Now we need a replacement for Kelly. Running back, Deion Lewis got cut. We need a running back. Like I said, Logan Ryan doesn't look like we're going to sign him now. So we need another cornerback. I mean, we need a defensive line guy. I mean, again, I'm okay with getting rid of Casey. I think you needed a little bit more than a 7th round pick. Now, Pro Football Focus, I'm not sure how much you put into them. they've always thought we've had one of the better lines in the last 5 years, 3 years. That's actually the last 4 years. But anyways, Pro Football Focus basically said that Casey was between a 70-74 graded player, still was doing pretty well in that Titans front, causing a lot of chaos when he could. Not always about the numbers, but at the same, maybe he slips a little and it's not worth it, but I thought Casey would have restructured. So it will be interesting to see what happens with there. But like I said, there's a guy out that is close to Seattle, or he says he is, thought that this Clowney thing was between us, the Seahawks, a mystery team, the Colts, okay? And now supposedly it's down between us and the Colts, but Buck Rising is saying no, it's kind of going the other way now. But it makes sense because these cap numbers have come out. A to Z Sports, not going to tell you a lot, but what they are going to say is they're going to bring their show and fit categories that they may know. So maybe they know a little bit more than they can tell you at this moment. So the last two topics on Buck Rising show are what is a backup plan and what do we do if we don't get Clowney? So if you're reading between the lines, I'm going to say, and I have no idea. I have no idea. I think the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys make a lot of sense for him. I think the Cowboys have a lot of room now. They brought in Cooper back, but they lost Byron Jones. They franchise tagged, Dak. I'm not sure what their cap situation is. We just don't want him to go to the Colts. We don't want him to go to the Colts. That is a terrible idea. I want them to keep Brissett and, give him a bonus for all I care, but do not trade him to the Colts. So before we get Brian on here shortly, we're looking for the likes. We're looking for 50 is always our magic number. So we're continuing to grow. If you haven't subscribed yet, definitely check us out here on Titan Upload. We are on the Titan Upload Network tonight. Sunday night, we do this at 9:30. This is a weekly show. And with everything going on right now, around the world, around the United States, it's a crazy time, unfortunately. A lot of people locked in, not allowed to go outside. Illinois, California, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee. I'm not sure if you've joined the list or not, or some other states. Rand Paul from Kentucky, the senator, he just came down with this. So it's just crazy out there. And so we're going to bring Brian in. We're going to get into this a little bit. We definitely will talk more Titans. We want to talk some draft, so we'll bring him in. So let's get into it with Brian. Here he comes. So, Brian, welcome, man. Thanks for joining us. How's it going?
Doing great. Always happy to be joining you.
Yeah, it's been a crazy free agent period. Real quick, I got to ask you about the Bears, because I know you're a Bear fan, right? I believe you're a Bear fan, if that's the one thing I remember, a Bear fan in Nebraska. But I got a couple questions for you before we get into the NFL draft and stuff. But first question, what is your take on the trade? A fourth for Foles. Are you excited about it? Not excited about it? What do you think?
I wasn't a big fan of it when it first happened, just because Nick Foles has never really had a lot of success outside of Philadelphia, whether it be, those limited time in Jacksonville, Kansas City, the Rams, whether, I don't know, St. Louis or Los Angeles. But he just never had success outside of Philadelphia, so that really worried me. And then he had that big contract. But, compensatory fourth-round picks, so there's like 160 or something was the pick. And then Jacksonville's eaten most of that cap. And then I went and looked at the contract, and it's basically voidable after this upcoming season. So if he totally flops or they go a different route at quarterback, they can cut him, and he's not costing them any dead money. So I'm okay with it. As long as it pushes the two of them to get better and one of them shines, I'm happy. Otherwise, it is what it is. It's the Bears and the quarterback.
Yeah. And then what about Nebraska?
I think I don't think a lot of people are grasping the severity of it. I think, there's only maybe 25 cases in the state. So I think to a lot of people it hasn't hit home. And so a lot of people are going about, obviously, restaurants are closed, schools are closed everywhere. So there's that. And I think once it really kind of hits is when you're going to see a lot of people start to be like, oh, crud. I mean, I heard it could go on for another 9 months. And the other day I was out there and some of my neighbors were like wanting to hang out. And I'm like, I want football to start. So let's just get this, quarantine ourselves, get this from not spreading, so that it doesn't hit us as hard as it could. So, yeah.
So today was the first day. I've always thought it was going to get to the summer. And after hearing people talk today, it's almost like things might go back to normalcy in the summer, but they are going to continue to monitor that 6 feet distant thing. And even if the NFL would come back, I'm just speculating now, even if the NFL would come back and run fine, I can still see this being limited with no fans. And that's kind of starting to sink in. That might be the new normalcy to get us through the year. So I hope I'm wrong about that, but hearing the president, hearing the governor of New York talk, and just governors around the United States, it seems like they're kind of putting their feet down and being like, hey, this might be a while. So hopefully not, but
yeah, I mean, it to an extent has it hit me because, I was a senior in high school when 9/11 happened, and I very much can remember all of the no TV, everything was shut down TV wise, and now we got Netflix, you got Hulu, you got all this on demand stuff, and I'm breaking down prospects as frequently as I can. So I don't really watch a lot of other sports during this time, so it really hasn't totally, even to the extent of having my kids home every day, hasn't really, changed that much.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to transition from that, but we're going to try to do our very best. So thanks again for Brian. You can definitely check him out on YouTube. We're going to share some stuff on him in a minute. He's got a little plug at the end. He's going to share his latest mock draft's going to be coming out, and he has someone that I'm very interested to see who he has. I know he used to have us with a cornerback to fill for Logan Ryan out of Virginia, so it'll be interesting to see if he still thinks we go in that direction or we go in a different direction. So, again, NGB Talk, I just saw you in the house. What's going on, man? It's good to see you. NGB Talk breaking down a video of Marcus Mariota for all you people that still love Marcus Mariota in the house here. He'll be breaking something down soon all about him to the Raiders and how he will fit in that offense, so you definitely want to check him out. So let's get into this, Brian. I have something made up for the viewers, and we've kind of talked about this. So this is our team draft needs, and this is what I've come up with. I think you've pretty much the same thing in your review of the Titans here that you came out with on the 13th of March. Running back, offensive line, pass rush, cornerback, defensive line. Now, I don't have wide receiver on the list, and part of the reason why I don't, if you read between the lines, Tajay Sharp doesn't look like he's going anywhere. He will probably sign within the next week or so, I would think. They only interviewed one wide receiver at the combine from Texas A&M, and then someone that can make some noise down the field. Those kind of players, or just maybe a nice big physical blocking tight end that can do multiple things. So we will definitely get into that. And then on the right are our draft picks. So Brian kind of alluded to it earlier. When we talked about the Bears and some of the other stuff, but when you look at the draft picks 1 through 3, we're solid there. Number 4, if you take it as fantasy football, just look at it from this point of view. Ryan Tannehill and Gilbert are the 2 players that is a keeper league, right? So we get to keep them where we drafted them 4 and 6. So, but we do lose those picks, and then we have a whole bunch of 7th rounders. And I'll tell you up front, there's no way we're going to be picking all 7 or all 3 of these 7th rounders. These are definitely going to be trade bait to move up in the draft and give J-Rob some flexibility to where he might be able to move up higher for a 5, maybe condense some picks to move him back into the 4th round, or who knows, maybe even take a little bit more, move out of the 1st round, build up and accumulate a little bit more picks. But these picks, possibly for players down the line that might be traded, I'm telling you up front that these picks are going to be very valuable. Running backs, I had Davidson from Auburn was on some list, but a lot of people lately are going with, I think his name is John out of Houston, the offensive tackle.
Oh,
Jones?
yes, Josh Jones.
Josh
Joshua
Jones.
Jones.
There it is.
Yes.
Who do you think makes the most sense now looking at this team saying we do not get Clowney and we kind of keep the status quo? Who do you think makes the most sense, and who would be there, do you think?
I still think your prime three are cornerback, outside linebacker, pass rusher, and an offensive tackle. I think if other positions, there's good value there. Potentially with the defensive line. I don't think it's not a very defensive line isn't really a great spot at the end of the first round. If Josh Jones is available to you in the first round, I think that's the slam dunk pick. I just finally got to watch him and break his tape down earlier this week, and he was a guy that I really liked. Very good lateral agility, overall athleticism. Still a little bit raw, but you just see the potential in there. I don't think he's going to be available for you guys. I could be wrong, just because I think you're going to see these tackles. There's going to be 6 or 7 of them, probably 7 of them go in the first round, and I think they're going to get scooped up pretty quickly. You're going to probably see 3 or 4 go in the top 10. Guy like Ezra Cleveland and Josh Jones, I think those guys are going to go top 25. Austin Jackson's another guy out of USC. So if you can get one of those guys and plug him in at right tackle right away, I think you've got to be happy. Cornerback, there's a few guys that I think are first round caliber, so that those guys could go a little bit early. And then obviously the pass rushers, I've mocked Yetur Gross-Matos quite a bit to the Titans. Julian Okwara's another guy. I don't see him as a first round pick, but I think he could go there. So I think those are the 3 positions to really kind of keep an eye on.
Okay. And just personal note here. So CBS, I looked at them. They have a mock of Austin Jackson, who also is a lineman, like you mentioned, from USC. If it came down to those 2, I don't really know much about them. I didn't really watch a whole lot of Pac-12 football, and I couldn't even really tell you what conference Houston are. They still in the AAC. Okay. So if the Titans had a pick, and based on what you know of the Titans, they love to run the ball with Derrick Henry, play action with Tannehill. Which one of those guys would be the better fit, Jackson or Jones?
I think Jones would be, just because he gives you the most upside. They're both more athletes than they are maulers. You're not your traditional just lean on you, push you out of the way type guys. I think I liked Josh Jones's core strength a little bit better. I gave him a little bit higher of a grade in his core strength and in that ability. Austin Jackson, is a guy that I'm not as high on him as the consensus. I have him kind of as a 3rd round pick, and there's people saying he could be a top 20 pick overall. I think that's all based off of potential, but I also think Josh Jones has an even higher ceiling than that. So
okay.
I think Jones would be a good fit there.
So here's Michael brings this up, an interesting point. So we let Conklin go, and I'm going to ask you a minute about Conklin. So we're going to roll with Kelly. So these guys that you mentioned, whether it's Jackson or Jones or an offensive tackle, let's just say we draft one, we trade up, whatever J-Rob decides to do, are they going to be able to compete, overtake Kelly, do you think, from what you know of Kelly? Or do you think that these guys are probably going to find their way being a backup and then maybe start in year 2?
I don't know Dennis Kelly as much as you do, to be completely honest. But I think that I'm basing this all off of where I see these guys, and I see a guy like Josh Jones being a very good starter in the league. So I think if I've got him with a 7-8 grade, which is high, late first, early second. So I view him as a guy that's going to be a, if I look real quick at what my grades actually mean, 7-8 is basically a quality starter in the league. So I think if you can get a guy like that in the late first round, that is, there's a shortage of tackles in this league.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to really pass up, and that's why I think all you could see 7 guys going in the first round.
So here's one for you. So Kelly, we brought him back. I believe it was a 3-year deal. I think we're roughly paying him. Let's round up to $8 million a year. From what you know about the league and general managers throughout the league, does this seem like the Titans would spend a pick on the offensive side, the tackle at this point in the draft, or does that really not matter into this equation?
It just depends. I think you see, and I saw this when free agency opened up, and I can't remember who was the reporter, but they said, "Oh, the good teams are loading up on the lines, and adding these defensive linemen and offensive linemen." So I could see that. Kelly's a guy. Didn't they kind of swing him around? Did he play inside it as well?
There was always talk about him playing guard, and he kind of was the extra lineman, or like he could fill left tackle, right tackle. Okay. Or if you overpowered one side, he would be on there. He can catch too, by the way. So maybe they can throw him in at tight end.
Well, and I mean, if they're thinking, okay, we're set with Dennis Kelly at tackle, and there's another position, like say there's a cornerback available, or there's another, what other position? There are a couple of guys on day 2 that I think do fit. Lucas Nang from TCU is a 6'7", 330-pound offensive tackle. Prince Tega Wananagu, I probably butchered that, out of Auburn. Those guys I think would be good fits. They're both powerful, strong type guys. They maybe don't have the athleticism of a Josh Jones or an Austin Jackson, but I think they might be a little bit better fit just because of their skill set being a little bit more run oriented. And Auburn was a pretty run oriented power team, so yeah, those might be a couple guys to watch on day 2.
So James asked about any sleepers come to mind. So with all those 7th round picks, anybody really that can make much of a difference maybe in the later rounds?
I mean, it's always tough just because a lot of those 7th round picks, a lot of teams go height, weight, speed, and so you might have a guy that's slipping that we think might be like a 3rd or 4th rounder, and teams just don't like him as much. Maybe they don't see the upside. So it's kind of hard to really kind of throw one out there. If you're looking just the offensive line, a guy that is kind of interesting, Calvin Throckmorton from Oregon. Oregon had the best offensive line in the college football last year, and here's a guy that started at right tackle, might have to move inside to guard, so maybe he moves inside to right guard. And he's a guy that is that kind of day 3-ish player, or maybe he slides down a little bit and he is available in the 3rd round. And Oregon had a really good rushing attack this year, so he might be someone to kind of keep an eye on. I don't know if it's 7th round, but at least on day 3.
Yeah, that's a good one. Good question, James, by the way. We got to get this in there because this is going to come up, and this might be a nice to see what you think about Clowney. But we have a super chat coming all the way from SFC 6186. So I love the picture, by the way. So that he's talking about the Seahawk fan that I mentioned earlier so he's saying he's followed by Rappaport. He's 683. I will question you on that one because when I saw this guy the first time when it broke, I forget who shared it, Titans tape or Titans news film news, something like that. But this guy only had like 293 followers. And then all these Titan fans, once the Titans were mentioned in his report, all the Titans fans come. And many of you in the house right now are followers now of this guy. And he even tweeted out, I think it was it last night or the night before, "Hey, wow, Titan fans, thank you so much for the follow." So, I mean, they're going, I understand what you're saying. We know this team. And the Tennessee Titans are almost as good as the Patriots when it comes to no news getting out. And once you know it, it happens. Casey, did any of you see that coming? I didn't see it coming, So, I mean, this goes back to the Rams. John Robinson, we've mentioned this on the show really quick. John Robinson is in the urinal, using the urinal at the combine, And he has the GM from the Rams, and they're having a conversation. Now, I don't know when that conversation happened, supposedly in the bathroom, though. And they talked about trading the number 1 pick to the Rams. And you never heard about any of that until whenever that day was. And I know it wasn't within the next week or so. That news was withheld both by the Rams and by the Titans. So for this guy who has 300 followers to just magically somebody call him from the Titans. Now, some of you were like, it was a family member, and he did say that. Now, that's something I could believe. You know what I mean? Because no one would ever thought I had anything on Tom Brady. And many of you still have you're still like, no. But I eventually will share a little bit more inside of that when I can. Right now, I can't. Tom Brady of the Bucs, we know it. But once I tell you, you'll be like, oh, wow, that does make sense. That's probably why you know a little bit. But when you go and look at this guy, I just don't have a good feeling. And then the Madden video broke. And now the Madden video did give me some hope with Clowney because that was obviously ready to go and be produced. The EA Sports is doing this with all the new guys going to different teams. They shade off their old uniforms, bring in the new. Somebody put some time on that, okay? The only thing I was thinking really quick is maybe EA Sports has a little bit of bad blood to the Titans because maybe EA wanted to make Derrick Henry a cover for the game this year, and we franchise tagged him, and now he might hold out, so they may not want anything to do with him. So that is a very interesting. But Brian, since we got you on, and just really quick, what can you tell us about Clowney? Would he be a good fit? Do you like Clowney? Did you like him coming out of college? And are you buying any of this Titans to Clowney talk?
Well, it seems like a pretty seamless fit. He was my number 1 overall player coming out of South Carolina. Number 2 was Khalil Mack. I remember when that draft happened, I was like, gosh, I kind of like Khalil Mack better. Debated kind of putting Khalil Mack number 1, watched another tape of Clowney, and solidified him as my number 1 player. I think he's a guy that he has experience with Vrabel. Vrabel was the defensive coordinator with the Houston Texans when Jadeveon Clowney was there. So he's got some experience working with him, using him with success. He also knows him as a person and as his work ethic. And that is one of the things that you kind of hear about Jadeveon Clowney is he doesn't always go 100% all the time. He can take some plays off in that. And I think that's why some teams are hesitant. Maybe that's why he hasn't been signed yet, because someone's not willing to meet his demands because of those work ethic issues. And I think if he did go there, he'd be a good fit. He's a guy that you kind of got to move around. He's not a true 3-4 outside linebacker. He's not a true 3-4 defensive end, but you kind of move him around and kind of use him as a chess piece, and he can have a lot of success. So I think if the Titans are able to get him, I think that'd be a big win, especially after losing Drill Casey. I think getting another defensive lineman to pair with Simmons would be a big help. So if you guys can get him, I think that's a great move. Whether he stays in Seattle or goes to some mystery team, is out there. Who knows?
So first, I didn't even mention this. Thank you so much for the super chat, by the way. I mean, that means a lot. I mean, you comment on the channel many times. SFC, I always mess that up, 6186. So I do appreciate it. I'll give you some applause. And I owe all the other 2 super chats applause too, but I'm sure you don't want to hear that anymore. You're probably sick and tired of that. And wow, if you watch wrestling, I'm not sure how many of you do, but those applause remind me of The Fiend all the time, so it's kind of scary. But as we mentioned, with Clowney, really quick, since we are on the topic, if you're John Robinson, Brian, okay, you're the GM for the Titans, which I think personally you would love that job. That's just me thinking. I think everybody in this house would love that job. Any GM of any team, maybe even the Browns. I think we do it. Do you make that trade, Casey, to the Broncos just for cap related spaces for a 7th?
I mean, it's just crazy that they only got a 7th round pick, and I get that a lot of times. I mean, Darius Slay's one of the better cornerbacks in the league, and they got like a 3rd and 5th round pick if the Eagles the Eagles traded. So you see a lot of these guys. Calais Campbell's another guy that went for a day 3 pick. So it's a little bit surprising. He is a little bit up there in age, so it's not like he's still on his rookie contract. It's not like he's new in the league. I just would have thought they would have got a little bit more. I know I put out a YouTube video, talking about that trade, and I was just a little bit surprised that they didn't get a little bit more out of it. But, if teams feel that they're going to cut him, maybe a lot of teams said, oh, hey, why do we want to trade a higher pick for Jarrell Casey when we know that the Titans are probably just going to release him to save the cap? And so that's why they got that 7th. But it was definitely, I get that they want to move him to save the cap, but it's like, gosh, you couldn't have gotten a little bit more.
Yeah. So Luke wanted to know, do you know anything about Clyde? I'm sure you do. Clyde Edwards or J.K. I know you mentioned J.K. Dobbins before. Anything you'd like to add on either one of these guys?
Yeah, I think, it depends on what the Titans want out of their backup running back. A lot of times when teams will say, okay, we've got a guy like Derrick Henry, big, physical, between the tackles type runner. We want to complement him. So we're going to add a Dion Lewis type guy, a speedier pass catcher type guy. And that's what Clyde Edwards-Helaire is. He's a guy that that's more of a pass catcher than he is a runner. He can have success running on the outside, but he's a guy that's going to be kind of shifty, and you can line him up in the slot. Or do you want a guy that, hey, when we take Derrick Henry out there, we want to kind of run the same offense? We saw that with the Minnesota Vikings several years back. They had Adrian Peterson, and then they drafted Toby Gerhart, and then it worked out. But Gerhart was the same physical type running back, and they said, hey, when Adrian Peterson's not in there, we just want to keep running that same stuff. So J.K. Dobbins isn't Derrick Henry, but I think he would still allow them to kind of keep, a run-based offense. He's a guy that's, more quick than fast. He's real, got tremendous contact balance and lateral agility, but it allowed them to kind of still maintain their offense. Whereas Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if you put him in there, they're going to have to be more of a passing team when he's in there, and that might tip some off, and we'll see, what they want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that, and good question. I really appreciate you guys. If you guys have any questions for Brian, we got him on for just a little bit more. So if you have anything you want to know, and it doesn't have to be Titans related, so any of you that are not Titans related in here, which I doubt there are many, leave a comment, and I'll try to get it on the screen and see if Brian can comment on it. Definitely, again, if you haven't done this yet, Brian's really close to 1,000. Go check out his stuff. He's got tons of videos. You can get lost in there sometimes because you just start clicking on all the different content that he has out there, which is a good thing because he puts out so much for you. And then if you have your YouTube channel where it just plays the next thing automatically, you could just get player after player after player. He does a really good job breaking it down. So definitely go over there. And then his Twitter handle, which we've shared many things on him coming on the show. Definitely check him out on there. And is it draft_Brian or is it Brian_draft? Did I mess that up?
Draft_Brian.
There we go. I got it right in the intro. So, yeah. NGB Talk says Brian is such a pro, and he is. And I'm just so thankful we get some time to share with him, and he can answer any of your questions. So here's one for Owen. What's going on, Owen? I did see you earlier with the Bucks, and yes, you are correct. That was the team I was hinting at with the Snake and the Viper, Tampa Bay XFL. Anyways, but Brian says, do you think Vaughn or Antonio Gibson would be a better backup in the Titans system behind Henry?
Who is that? Who is the first one?
Keyshawn Vaughn.
Okay. Oh, from Vanderbilt.
Yeah, and we have a lot of Vandy, and that is the late. A lot of people, J-Rob likes to do this local thing. Byard. Byard is a prime example. The guy didn't get invited to the combine. J-Rob was on him many times. He'd go over to MTSU, and he took him first pick in the 3rd round. So if he likes a guy and he's local, he's going to invest a lot of time into him. So a lot of people are reading the connection with him. And then
I think. Oh,
and then Gibson's from Memphis, correct? And you
Yes.
can comment on this really quick too. At the combine, they kept saying, "Oh, Gibson's not going to be a running back. He's going to be a receiver. He's going to be a receiver." So I don't know if you agree with what they were assessing him on NFL Network.
Yeah. See, Keyshawn Vaughn's a guy that I have him kind of in that late day 2. So to me, as big of a, there is a need there at running back from what I see. I think it's going to be one of those needs that they kind of push down just because your running backs, they tend to not go as high. And I think this class, you don't have that Ezekiel Elliott. You don't have that Saquon Barkley. I don't even think you have a Josh Jones. I mean, I like DeAndre Swift. I like J.K. Dobbins. I think those guys are a step below Josh Jacobs, who went to the Raiders last year. And so I wouldn't be shocked if there's not a running back taken in the first round. So that kind of just pushes guys even further. So I think 4th round, I think a guy like Keyshawn Vaughn is a guy that would fit. He's another guy that's got good contact balance, a guy that can kind of bounce off defenders, and he does a lot of things good. I've got pretty almost every one of the traits that I look at are running backs. It's the same score for all those. Contact balance is a little bit high, so I think he'd be a good fit, especially if you want to kind of keep a lot of the continuity, like I said earlier. I haven't seen a lot of Gibson, to be honest with you. I'm starting the process of finalizing my running back rankings, and he's a guy I went and checked. I said, okay, who are some guys that I haven't seen yet that I need to see yet? And Gibson's literally the next guy on my list. So I don't want to just throw something out there and just to say something. So he's someone I probably be checking out in the next couple of days.
Yeah, from all NFL Network, and because it was in prime time, I think a lot of us got to see so much of that even before. I mean, it was like right before this coronavirus started to pick up a lot of steam, but they just kept mentioning Gibson's going to be a receiver. Gibson's going to be a receiver. So obviously they probably know way more than me, but I'm not sure they know more than you. So that's why I brought that to you. But definitely let us know next time maybe you're on the show and you can kind of give your little breakdown on Gibson for sure. All right, we are at 27 likes. We are way, way away from 50. So if you haven't hit that like button, we got Matt Moon in the house, so we're ready to go now for sure. We had a little bit of technical difficulties again on the network, but we're trying to overcome them. As I mentioned, last show, my Stream Deck broke. You just click a few buttons. I'm going to blame NGB on this one. Yep, NGB, it's your fault, man. But just kidding, it's not his fault at all. But yeah, so that broke, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'll get a new one or not, but they were kind of nice just to hit a few buttons and then boom, stuff pops up on your screen. So, but anyways, to wrap up the show, Brian, you got a new mock draft that's going to start breaking. I did want to throw this up there. Hopefully I don't mess this up, but there we go. Boom. So this is Brian's stuff on the left or on your right. I'm not even sure, but you have basically Brian broke down. I think it was March 13th. He came out with our draft needs and where he could see us going. So definitely check that out. I will link it, share it in my Twitter, and then I'll also have it plugged in the YouTube video when that officially gets posted, and I go through and edit as soon as this is over with. And then on the right, as you guys can see, he's super close to 1,000, puts in all this work. I mean, you could see all the stuff going on there in that on his YouTube page, and he has a lot of followers on Twitter. But when you look at his YouTube page, it's so close to 1,000. So definitely give him some love. Go over there, check out his content. Like I said, it's easy to get lost in that stuff because there's so much. And I think you'll really enjoy what he does. So we'll get him back on the screen. Talk more about the draft needs. As you mentioned, there is the draft picks on the right. We mentioned Tannehill, Gilbert. And then on the left, defensive line now because Casey's going to be we're going to need to replace a guy for Casey. And then we have cornerback, pass rush, offensive line, and running back. And again, the latest news, what we got from Buck Rising, is that the Clowney to the Titans, which everybody was sharing, it was going around Twitter like crazy. It looks like the Titans are still in it, but they are leaning the other way. And we just broke down the cap room, and it looks like with around $27 million in cap space, 26 need around 5, 6, possibly $7 million for draft picks. Doesn't leave you a lot of room. And remember, we have a lot of guys to sign. A lot of guys. We need another cornerback. We need a backup running back. I mean, we mentioned using Logan as the backup quarterback from our practice squad. Seems like a real possibility. Terry McCormick came out just before we went on, said no Joe Flacco. The Titans are not, they're not even thinking about Joe Flacco as a backup. So we're not going that direction. If you don't want Flacco, then you probably don't want no other veteran. So I was hoping, and I know Titans NM was hoping as well, PJ Walker. But as of right now, it just looks like the Tennessee Titans are going to go status quo. So, man, we'll be interested to see if we get Clowney. So you got a mock. This is we got Al Pierce. We got to get Al on the screen. What's going on, Al? It says, how are teams getting evaluated with this whole coronavirus thing going around, messing up pro days? And will it cause talents to fall? That's an awesome question. So, again, I'm sorry. Got to do it. Got to do the applause because that's a great question. Great question. So this will be your last question from the fans. But what do you think on that one with Al about how's this going to impact certain players? And is it going to be something that players are going to typically fall, especially the questionable guys, right, with background issues or maybe they got an injury issue? And do you see this being a huge issue?
Well, I think we're going to see a lot more of the Skype interviews and those type of things. You wonder if players are able to, they might do a pro day on their own with, less than 10 people there and record it and send it out. And so you at least get to see some of those things. It's different. I talked about this with Tua Tagovailoa. He's a guy that could very well be the second quarterback taken. He could be the fourth now because teams want to see him move around with that hip injury and not having the talk was he was going to have a pro day close to the actual draft. Well, if you can't have that, you can't see that in person, that might scare a team from taking him that early. So, I think, like you said, guys with big red flags that you might have been able to figure out when you were meeting them in person. I think those could cause those guys to slow down, and it's a very interesting time. It may cause teams to just rely more on the tape, and maybe they don't put as much stock into those pro days, and then they go to the tape, and we always see guys drop, and it's like, why did this guy drop? He just put nothing out but good tape, and then they got too bought into the pro day or whatever, and maybe they go and they look at the pro day. I think it's going to hurt small school guys. A lot of these small school guys get invited to the bigger combines or the bigger pro days, and you don't get those guys. And I think they're going to be the biggest losers in this, unfortunately. And that's the bad thing because you see so many of these guys that we don't know about, and they go to a pro day, team gets them on the radar. Maybe they're a 7th round pick, maybe they're an undrafted free agent, and maybe we'll lose a good crop of guys this year. Man,
that's a really good point about the Kevin Byards of the world, the lower tier guys that, J-Rob obviously felt comfortable enough to pick him number 1 in the 3rd round, but let's say J-Rob wasn't going to. Someone that didn't invest a lot of time like J-Rob, and, let's be honest, these NFL teams, they have really good scouting programs, they know. But how many guys at these pro days get hot at the end, right? Where they have a really good pro day, whether it's a 40 time or they do something great at the combine. They throw who was the quarterback? Was it oh my goodness. Was it 2 years ago? Who's the Jets quarterback now from
Hackenberg?
No. They drafted him out of USC. But he was one that threw in a wet football, remember?
Sanchez?
No, man, what is his name? Came out like 2 years ago. But he threw a wet...
Sam Darnold.
Darnold, yeah. So he threw a wet football. And I remember them talking about that for a week. And, the Jets, didn't they pick like the 3rd pick that year? And they took him.
They had the 3rd pick, yeah. They moved up from 6 to 3 because they thought they were going to get
They traded with
Mayfield. Yeah, they thought they were going to get Mayfield because they thought Darnold was going to go number 1. And then Darnold was the guy they liked the entire time. And Cleveland got that for them.
So, I mean, we know that it does have an impact. And then, like you mentioned, which was an awesome point, like these guys that are under the radar, no one's really heard about, small school guys Guys that go with like Illinois State, they're a Redbird or something like that. They're just not going to get that last push or that last look, and ultimately they may have to go the undrafted route.
Well, and you wonder too. You're starting to hear. At least I started to hear. A lot of teams were sending their scouts home right around the draft time, and they weren't. A lot of them weren't even in the war room or weren't even in the facility when the draft happened. And you wonder without the pro days, without the team visits, those scouts, the work that they did in the fall, going from their school visits, that background check and those conversations that they had with the players, that's going to be invaluable right now. So you wonder if teams will start to say, in the past, oh, hey, I sent my scouts home because I don't really need them for anything at this point. Maybe they'll bring them in because come draft day, they'll be like, oh, hey, you met this guy. Tell us about his character a little bit more. And maybe those guys are going to get more of an emphasis than maybe what they were.
Yeah. Just as off topic, CW, I do appreciate you. You were Sin City Titan is another one in the house. You guys, Owen, you guys are leaving some great feedback here. And I apologize. I haven't been able to stop and pause and stuff, but you guys, like I said, I do notice that and I do appreciate it. And Michael earlier and James and stuff like that. So thank you guys for posting. I know we still have more people in the house that don't comment, and that's fine. But, we're going to move on.
Hey, I got a new subscription from one of your guys.
Oh, you did?
Thanks, Al.
Nice. Did it just pop up?
I just was checking my emails just to see if anyone did.
Oh,
so
sweet.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, hopefully. Next time we're on, too. It just kind of hit or miss on the last time we were on, we had over 104 people were on. And then the night before, which was a Sunday night, NGB talking night, and we couldn't even get 50 likes. So it's just kind of hit or miss when you think about what's going on with the Titans. But I also realize that there are way bigger stuff going on in the world today than Titan Upload and Titan Upload Network and that stuff too. And I think a lot of fans, Brian, I don't know if you agree or disagree with this, but I think a lot of fans are just unsure of what's really going to happen and if the draft's actually going to happen. Now they say it's going to happen, and we know that there's not actually going to be fans there. But honestly, the hotels in Vegas are shut down. California is shut down. We already mentioned Illinois, New York, and New Jersey, Connecticut. You just don't really know until we get a little bit closer how this is going to look.
Well, they did say that they're moving. It's not going to be in Vegas anymore.
Okay.
So they didn't move it off there. I think what's going to happen, and this is just my opinion, I think you're going to have, maybe Goodell is going to be somewhere, and they're going to have ESPN and NFL Network are going to have feeds into where. So maybe Goodell's in the NFL league offices. Maybe he somehow, with California being on lockdown, NFL Network, being out there. I don't know how, he gets in there, but he's going to be somewhere in a studio, and he's going to be announcing the picks. And then you're going to have ESPN's going to be, Kuiper and McShay and Louis Riddick, who's an absolute stud.
Yeah.
They're gonna be in their studios. Maybe they have guys like Kuiper, via, home office, and same thing with the guys from NFL Network. I think it's gonna be a studio show, and yeah, the fans are nice and all, but I don't think we're gonna lose a lot. You're still gonna have the anticipation. Who are the picks gonna be? Maybe you don't get Goodell booed this year, but I think a lot of it's going to be the same because in all reality, it's just reading off people's names.
Yeah.
You're not going to have Pat McAfee come in and throw a WWE promo out there before his pick, but you'll have, Goodell or whoever the deputy commissioner is or somebody. They're going to go out and just read the names, and, maybe they just have it just pop up and it's a graphic, whatever it may be. It's going to be along the same lines. And yeah, the crowds are nice, but it's still the same thing. It's still exciting and guessing where all these players are going to be. So, unfortunately, it's in a bad, weird time, but I think you're going to see record number of viewers just because in all reality, there's nothing else to watch.
No, unless you're watching the news. And I don't know about you, but we watch it. My wife and I watch it a lot. And the kids are running around. The kids don't know what's going on. They kind of get scared. Why is mom and dad watching the news? I mean, they talk about the same stuff all the time, but at the same time, you just want to know what's going on, and things do change. And, you're waiting for it to get a little bit better. I know Italy has reported a little bit better numbers, but man, when you're having 595 people die in one day, it's hard to look at that and be positive, like Clay Travis is. Yeah.
You almost have to wonder if just shutting the country down for 2 weeks is maybe the best situation. Maybe it's not, but
yeah,
only whatever we can do to.
Yeah, only a few states do it. I mean, is that really? We'll have to figure out if that's going to help or not. So really quick, because so this goes back to the Rappaport, and we talked about it before, and I know a lot of people are interested in it. So for me, just asking you what you know, I mean, do you buy anything into being followed by Rappaport, or is that really not that big of a deal?
I mean, I'd like Rappaport to follow me.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
Be cool. But do you give him more stock because he is, I guess?
Yes and no. I mean, maybe Rappaport follows him because he has this, and maybe it's someone he's a friend of a friend. Maybe it's I came across this person and accidentally liked followed him and didn't know that it was like a miss thumbprint or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's it's one of those things that could be a total fluke, or it could mean something.
Yeah, and I don't know SFC.
Maybe it's his burner account.
Yeah, his burner account. 6186. I have not been to his Twitter since we've been on the air. So before we kind of get out of here, I don't know if you want to go check it out and see if he's said anything else, especially wherever. I know some of you are like, you don't really put too much into even what Buck Rising says, but. Yeah, give us the latest report there, man. It would be interesting to hear. I mean, if I just don't want to be heartbroken, and we've been heartbroken. I remember the Manning watch. We were not in on Peyton Manning, and then Bud Adams was like, "Well, Peyton Manning would probably get us at least to the Super Bowl." So then he got in on it. They flew him in. The big deal was he came to Knoxville and threw for the Titans. So everyone was kind of, hey, he wanted to come home. Peyton wanted to come home. And I was listening to 104.5 The Zone a lot during that time. And they had Clay Travis. And Clay Travis was on there. And he said he had sources that Peyton Manning was signing with the Tennessee Titans. And it was going to happen. I remember listening to it all the time. Well, the next day, I don't know if you've heard of Incarcerated Bob, I think his name is. But that night, like, I forget, it was late at night. He was reporting on Twitter, I believe. that he's like I think he's a radio guy. I'm not sure where he's out of, but Manning was going to Denver. It was confirmed. It's all done. Well, when we woke up, that's exactly what happened. And when Clay Travis got on the air, you're always interested. Hey, like, where'd your sources go? But Clay Travis was like, honestly, he went to bed a Titan. He woke up a Bronco. And when you looked at what kind of team was around the Titans at the time, really can't blame him. So definitely, if you find anything out before we leave the show, let us know. We'll maybe talk about it a little bit. So back to the draft before we go. The big cliffhanger is you're coming out with this big new mock draft, and you got the Titans. Are you still on board with the cornerback out of Virginia, or you see the Titans go in a different direction?
I have them going a different direction. That mock drops on Tuesday. I'm just putting the finishing touches on it to have it up there. I wanted to go to be 100% transparent. I went through my mock, got it all together, gave the Titans Trayvon Diggs out of Alabama a cornerback, and I go to start typing up my summaries, and I realized I had given the Jaguars Isaiah Simmons at pick 9, and then Kenneth Murray at pick 20, and I'm like, I can't give them linebacker and 2 linebackers in the first round, and so I had to go and move those picks, and that caused Trayvon Diggs to go up to the Vikings after they traded away his brother, and so I thought about Bryce Hall there from Virginia. I'm not sure. He didn't have the best not the best season this past year. AJ Terrell's a guy that I like. I just don't know if I see him being a first round pick. And so I didn't really see a cornerback that was worth it. I didn't really see a pass rusher. I mean, Yetur Gross-Matos had going a couple picks later, but I feel like I don't want to get in the habit of my mocks, especially if I'm not locked in on a certain player, just mocking them over and over again. Because if you as a Titans fan know, oh, hey, draft _ Brian is just going to have them taking Yetur Gross-Matos every single mock, you're going to stop going in. So I want to give all the different scenarios, and didn't see a pass rusher really that, other than him. Didn't see a cornerback. My tackles were all gone. So I thought I have to go another position. And so an exclusive, I have him taking a tight end.
Wow.
I have him taking Adam Troutman out of Dayton, a small school guy, 6'5", 255 pounds. This guy, he kind of heard about him. He blew up at the combine. Finally went and watched him, and he blew me away. And it takes a lot for me to, Adam Shaheen came out a few years ago, and everyone is raving, and I'm just like, just don't really see it. He was clearly a man among boys playing out there. The game I saw against Jacksonville, not the Jaguars, but Jacksonville University, you could see that athleticism. You saw what was on the combine, the 40 time he put up, the vertical leap, those explosive drills. You saw that athletic ability. He showed the ability to run routes. Usually, especially at those smaller schools, you see guys that just kind of out-athlete you. He actually set up routes, and I put a couple videos up there on Twitter. So if you want to check those out of him, setting up his routes and going, and then he just caught everything that came to him, went up and made catches, drug guys into the end zone. So I thought, he's a guy that I have a first-round grade on early. I'm not finalized on him, but I thought, they let go of Delaney Walker. I know they got Jonnu Smith, but I think, he'd be a guy in today's NFL, a good tight end. They don't, tight ends kind of take a little bit of time to get going.
That's true.
So you got guys like McCole Pruitt, you got Jonnu Smith, so you can kind of get him to go, especially being a small school guy, and then he can, take that next step.
Yeah, I've not heard of him. He's not. I think it's the guy from South Florida, but he wasn't the guy that got plunked in the head, was he? Do you remember?
That was Mitchell Wilcox from South Florida. Gave Mitchell Wilcox a concussion.
Oh wow.
So
yeah. So yeah, that's shocking. Now, could it happen? Sure. Especially with J-Rob loves these guys that basically a lot of us probably haven't heard of, or smaller school guys that you can get under the radar. Is there any possibility with this guy, let's say, because I think cornerback is a big, big need right now. And if they don't do anything with Logan Ryan, which it doesn't look like they're gonna, and I'm not sure who else is out there corner-wise that could fill a spot in free agency at the moment. But could you see this guy that you mentioned out of Dayton sliding to the second round? Do you think that's a possibility?
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be available when the Titans pick in the second round. I don't know if you guys just have the one pick in the second round, correct?
That's correct, yep.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be there. I think the second round is where you see a lot of these tight ends go off. I like this tight end class. It doesn't have the TJ Hawkinson or the Noah Fant, but you got guys like Bryson Hopkins, who I'm a big fan out of Purdue, Troutman, Colby Parkinson, Hunter Bryant, Cole Kmet. There's a lot of guys that are in that second round area. Albert O from Missouri. I'm not going to try and pronounce his name today.
Yeah.
From Missouri. I mean, these guys are all that day 2, second, third round guys. So I think you're going to see a big run on them. So I could see teams saying, "Oh, we like Troutman, but we'll push him." But if they see a future superstar, they see a George Kittle, they see a Zach Ertz, a Dallas Goedert type guy in Troutman, maybe they kind of say, "Okay, let's just take a chance on grabbing him now in the first round, and maybe we got our, you get a good tight end in this league, it really opens up your offense. You see what some of those good teams have. Look at the Chiefs and the 49ers. They both have elite tight ends, and they do so much for you in today's NFL being a mismatch. So I think it's a possibility. I could also see him falling, and maybe, it's also one of those things. I just watched him. I liked him. So sometimes as a mock drafter, I'm guilty of it. You just want to get him in that first round to talk about him.
Yeah. And I think with the Titans, because personally looking at the team, wide receiver is going to be one of those things that if you don't sign Tajay Sharp back, now you need another, wide receiver. But maybe, if you can get a guy who they think could be a playmaker, a difference guy who could be lighted up in the red zone, put him in there opposite side of A.J. Brown or Corey Davis, whatever they're going to do with him. maybe they take a chance. But unfortunately for the Titans, it looks like, we need a lot of backups, and we definitely have a few holes to fill. And hopefully, J-Rob, I trust in him. I think he's going to get it done. It doesn't look like he's doing much now. But at the same time, like, hopefully it's just going to work out for us. But, yeah, thanks for sharing that. And, Brian, when is that going to drop again for you on your site?
Tuesday.
On Tuesday. So
An NFL draft. We put a new mock draft out every Tuesday. We started in the season, so once we had a new order after the Monday night game, and we just kept it on Tuesdays.
Yeah. Well, that works. So that gives you guys something to look forward to. And like I said, he'll be very vital for us here on the network going forward for sure, because with the draft coming up, some really good inside information you're getting, some insights, and he does a great work. So definitely check him out and get over there and subscribe to him. And like I said, he's almost to 1,000, and his Twitter, doing great on Twitter. But he would definitely probably appreciate that. So thank you so much, Brian. We're out of time. Any last closing comment for you?
Not really. I got a podcast coming out. Gonna do just came up with this idea over the weekend. I'm gonna run with it. Mention mock drafts every Tuesday on NFLDraftGeek.com. The week to week football podcast. That's my podcast up on the NFL Draft Geek podcast network. I'm gonna do a mock draft Monday every week.
Nice.
And talk about a different mock draft. So this week, what I did is I went to NFL mock draft database. They've got a simulator, and I just simulated a first round, and I just went through and talked about it. Next week, I'll probably talk about my mock that comes out on Tuesday. Next week, maybe I hit up and critique one of the other writers at NFL Draft Geek, their mock draft. Maybe I go and I critique, go through Daniel Jeremiah's or Mel Kiper's or one of those national analysts, and just not necessarily critique them, but just go through and talk about it, why I think this pick could work, why maybe I don't see it. I know the one I talk about tomorrow had Justin Jefferson going like 15th overall, and I wasn't a fan of that, and so I kind of talked through that process. So it gives you a different way of, not always seeing the same thing. It's not always my mock draft every week. It's, maybe it's something that I'm like, oh, hey, I really like this. And, sometimes that comes true.
Yeah. So out of all those guys that do mock drafts, do you have a personal favorite?
It's tough just because I know Kevin Hansen at Sports Illustrated, the Huddle Report is a website out there, and they have a mock draft contest where they rank, all the people like me submit our final mock drafts, and they grade them. So if you haven't checked that out, go there. I was top 6 for the 5-year average. I dropped down, and now I'm just 10th. But Kevin Hansen's a guy who writes for Sports Illustrated now. He used to just write for his own website, and he just was getting up at the top there, and he won it like 2 years in a row. So he's definitely someone to kind of, Sports Illustrated's NFL draft guy, very accurate mock drafts. So he's definitely someone to kind of keep an eye on, and he'll be one of the ones I break down because, he's one of the most accurate mock drafters out there.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing, Brian. Do you like trivia, by the way? Do you like NFL trivia and that kind of stuff, sports? You good?
Only when I do good.
Coach Plays came out. He had one tonight, and I missed it. So I went back to kind of watch it a little bit before the show, and oh my goodness, he's got his own little. He's got like the sports desk, and it looks like a professional. He's got the chalkboard off to his left. Man, blown away by that. But I could see you. Maybe he does a draft trivia, get you on there, and yeah, that would be a lot of fun. So thanks again, Brian. Brian doesn't have to do this, and he comes on and gives up some of his time, and just to talk Titans draft. And if I'm gonna go anywhere to find out about stuff, or I have a question, it's nice that Brian's around because he spends so much time in this. So again, I mentioned this 1,000 times. It seems like today. Got the NFL countdown to the draft over there, by the way. Don't go over there and check out his stuff. I mean, he's got some very good information, and again, you get caught up in this because he's got so much. And I want to go check out the Dayton player. I mean, that's probably something I'll do shortly after this, because that's definitely intriguing for me to hear that, because you never know who the Titans are going to pick. And with John Robinson, Like, there are guys you want him to pick, but then at the same time, like, you hold your breath, because with him having so much passionate for the people that come from small schools, like, it doesn't matter to him where you come from. If you can win, if you can play and you can produce on the national, or in the NFL, and you can help the Titans, he doesn't care where you come from. And he loves to draft quality guys that, are not going to be problems off the field and are going to give it and love football. I mean, he's only missed one, I would say, right? Kevin Dodd is the only one he missed. But even, I think we mentioned this with Brian earlier, not today, but an earlier show. Brian also said that he liked Dodd too. Did you not? I thought you said you liked Dodd coming out.
I really did.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can miss. We know that. And, but it does help that at least Brian breaks these people down so you have an idea where to go and get this information. So, again, back to the draft needs, the draft picks on the right, draft need, or the needs for the Titans on the left, just to share that one more time. And again, I apologize, my Stream Deck broke, so I don't have access to that anymore. So with everything going on, that's the least of my worries. So hitting the wrong buttons is always fun. So we're out of here. I have one more little segment. So Brian's, he's gonna leave the screen. So take care, Brian. Thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So Brian's gone, and again, we talked draft tonight. Talk Clowney. Not really sure what's going on with Clowney. All I know is Buck Rising came out earlier in the day and mentioned some stuff on Clowney about maybe he's not headed in that direction. There's still a source out that follows the Seahawks. Can't think of the guy's name off the, right now, but he's been all in on the Titans. He said just coming down to Monday. He really has been saying Monday all along. And then now it's between us and the Colts. So it is interesting. I think a lot of us don't want to see him going to the Colts or anywhere near the Colts or anywhere else in the division. But again, Madden broke a little early on their TikTok, and Clowney was in there, and that was being spread around. I just don't like the rumors. I don't like the rumors. Usually when there's so many rumors and it's a good thing. Remember all the stuff with Brady and the Titans? Kind of, we all got sucked into that, Titans and Brady, we like Brady. Brady loves the Titans. They're number one on the list. Even Vegas had us for a short time being, at the very top, even, over the Patriots at one point. So with all this stuff going out there, you never know. But anytime this Clowney stuff would break and he does sign with the Titans, might as well expect us to go live and talk about it. So we will definitely break a live point at any point this week whenever Clowney does sign, if he does sign with the Titans. If he signs with another team, no offense, I'll probably just be too upset, and there's no point of me going live on that in that area. So we didn't get the 50 likes tonight, but that's okay. Still love you guys. Thanks again for giving up your time here on the network and being around. Again, there's so much, unfortunately, going around us that a lot of us are in lockdown. We can't do a whole lot. So sports are off the table. You can't watch sports anymore. So it's a lot of video games. It's a lot of movies. It's a lot of family time. Those of us that are religious, a lot of prayer time. It's just trying to get us by. And I'm not sure when this thing's going to get better. Hopefully sooner than later. But we will continue to be here every Sunday night at 9:30. Hope you guys enjoyed the show tonight. Tried to do a little stuff extra in the beginning. Fortunately, the camera wasn't all the way plugged in, so the camera died at some point. So I do apologize for that. But anyways, thanks again for joining us, and you guys have a good day. So tighten up and see you soon. Take care, guys.